Okay guys, in this video we're going to practice the ACT GEMA rules. So this whole worksheet is pretty much just orders of operation and being able to type things into the calculator. So I'm working through all 17 problems in this packet, so let's go ahead and get started. So number 1 says for all x, 7 minus 2 times x minus 10 equals what? So the first thing I want to make sure that I do is I want to make sure that I know that this -2, that negative sign goes with the 2. So from here, this 7, I'm just bringing it down. It's just along for the ride. It's got nothing to do. The negative goes with the 2. So from here, I'm going to distribute -2 times x is -2x. Then I have -2 times -10 for a positive 20. Then from here, what's next is to combine your like terms. So I have a 7 and a 20 for 27 minus 2x. And looking at my answer choices here, I should notice that my answers have the x value listed first, and that's okay. Just because I don't have x listed first doesn't mean I did it wrong. It just means that I need to move it around. So I'm going to replace and kind of flip these and put the -2x first and bring down the positive 27 for an answer of H. All right, number 2, the number 0.07 is 1,000 times as large as which of these numbers? So this number here, okay, that number here is 1,000 times bigger than these answer choices. We're looking for which one of the answer choices is this number 1,000 times bigger. So what I would recommend is basically multiplying all your answer choices, multiplying by 1,000. Well, if I'm multiplying decimals by 1,000, kind of like using scientific notation, I would move the decimal point to the right. So if I start here, 1, 2, 3, that's 700. That does not equal this, so F is out. 1, 2, 3, that is 70, doesn't equal. 1, 2, 3, that is 7, doesn't equal. 1, 2, 3, that's 0.7, close, but not yet. 1, 2, 3, that gives me 0.07, and this does match this, so K is the correct answer. This value is 1,000 times larger than K. This next one is involving complex numbers, so let's go ahead and try it. So the 1 is listed out in front of our square root. So I'm going to leave it there. Underneath the square root, the only value that's being squared is -5. That other negative is just kind of sitting out to the front, so I'm just going to put the negative out here. -5 squared, that's the same thing as doing -5 times -5, which is positive 25. So that -5 squared simplified to a positive 25. So looking at our answer choices, forgetting about imaginary numbers would cause you to pick A through C. But my mind should go to imaginary because I have a negative underneath the square root. So A, B, and C are automatically out because they don't have I in them. The difference between D and E is because E, they forget to actually square root the number. They just take the square root of the -1. So right here, the square root of -25, the square root of 25 is 5, the square root of -1 is I, for an answer of D. If you choose E, all you did forget is to square root 25 as well. That's important. All right, let's try number 4. Oh, I'm sorry, let's go back to number 3 actually. You can do number 3 in your calculator, and I like to show you guys calculator tricks because here's the thing. The ACT doesn't care about your work. Okay, look how beautiful all that work is. The ACT isn't going to look at it and go, well, they picked the wrong answer, but they showed a lot of work. They don't care. So I want to teach you the tricks, and this is a TI 84 plus CE, and this one tells you that it's in imaginary mode, A plus BI, but let's say that I didn't know that, and I want to put it in imaginary mode. What I'm going to do is press the mode button, and down here where it says real versus a plus bi. A plus bi is complex numbers. Real is just numbers where you can't take the square root of negatives. If I want my calculator to understand imaginary numbers, it has to be in a plus bi form. And then I'm going to quit out of it, and now I'm good to go. So let's type in number 3. 1 plus the square root of negative parenthesis negative 5 squared. It will automatically tell you the answer. So yes, the ACT can be done completely without a calculator, which is fine and dandy. But honestly, for me, I'm just going to type it in. That took me 5 seconds to do. Also, it's important that whenever you're typing in math on the ACT, that you type it to make it look exactly like the problem. So I know that this looks like this. I want to make sure that I keep them the same. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm making it look identical. And your calculator will do it for you. All right, let's try the next one. So I'll do the long way, but honestly, I would recommend doing it the shortcut. So let's do it the long way. I need to distribute. So to distribute on number 4, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative 2i is negative 4i. Then I'm going to swap to the 4i. So I'm going to use all of this, the positive 4i. So 4i times 3i is 12i. And then I have the 4i times negative 2i for negative 8i squared. Remember, x times x is x squared. I times I is I squared. And then I've got all this stuff right here. I'm going to also multiply. So bring down my plus. Negative 3i times 5i. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then I times I is I squared. So yeah, I have a plus here, not a big deal. It's a negative, so if you want, you can kind of cross out that plus and keep it negative. Now I'm just going to combine those like terms together. So remember, like terms are terms that are identical to each other. They look the same, like apples and apples, chicken nuggets and chicken nuggets. So I'm going to look here and I have a 6. Well, nothing else is just a number. So I'm going to bring my 6 down. There's nothing else to match it. All right, let me grab another color here. Color and I didn't write with. There we go. Then I have negative 4i and positive 12i. Well, negative 4 plus 12 is positive 8. And then I is just along for the ride, just like if I was combining any kind of x value. Then we have negative 8i squared minus 15i squared. Okay, so negative 8 minus 15 is negative 23. I squared. Oh, I forgot the square. I said it and forgot to write it. All right, now I might panic at this point. I might look at that example and be like, well, nothing has I squared in it. But remember, I squared is equal to negative 1. So that means I'm going to replace I squared with negative 1. So I have 6 plus 8i minus 23 times negative 1. Now my answer is starting to look like these answer choices. So I have 6 plus 8i. Negative 23 times negative 1 is positive 23. And now I can combine. 6 plus 23 is 29 plus 8i. Now at this point, I could have stopped. I don't really care about the 6 and 23. I can narrow some answer choices down. Notice how these all have 8i, then I can go back. So keep and pay attention to your multiple choice answers. It's going to make these problems a whole lot easier because it's really difficult sometimes to eliminate answer choices. So when you can, do it. Now, that was the super long way. So our answer here is D. I'm going to do this a whole lot faster, okay? Your work is great, okay? I love that you show work, but the ACT does not care. So I want to make that clear. I want to encourage you to know how to do it, but also know that you can also do shortcuts. So I'm going to type this in. To find the I button, I is located right here above the decimal. So to get to that I have to press second decimal. So I'm going to type this in pretty quick. We should know how to, not answer, second decimal. We should know how to type things into our calculator. Calculators are wonderful tools, but if you don't know how to use them properly, it can be a little bit of a struggle, and it can be harder to do the math problem on your calculator. So being mindful of how to use the tools that you have is very important. So right here, I typed it in, took me maybe 20 seconds because I was talking while I was doing it, and it matches completely with D. Now, I want to show you what's going to happen. I'm going to take my calculator out of imaginary mode. So now my calculator doesn't think imaginary numbers exist. Oh, it's still working. Well, I don't have an answer for that because it usually says no. But I think it won't work now if I square root a negative. Yeah, there's the error. So if you put I in there, I guess it's fine. Honestly, I learned something new. So let's change it back to imaginary mode and complex. I'm going to go down here. Now if I type in, oops, excuse me, there we go. Now if I type it in, it'll give me my imaginary number. So just be mindful. I did not realize that it would actually work if it was in real mode. So I learned something new, and hopefully you did too. But the square root of negative isn't working. All right, let's try number 5. AB equals C, and C equals KB. And BC does not equal 0. Then K equals what? All right, so back in geometry and the beginning of algebra, you learn about what's called the transitive property. The transitive property says if A equals B and B equals C, then by default, A has to equal C. This is just fancy substitution. The transitive property is just substituting. Think about these people as being soccer players or football players or any kind of sport where you have multiple positions. So this is, let's say, Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a quarterback. Jameis Winston's a quarterback. So they're technically equal. Ability level-wise, not really. But position-wise, they're both quarterbacks, okay? Well, Jameis Winston moved over to the Saints. So Jameis Winston is a quarterback, and he's equal to Drew Brees, who's the Saint quarterback. Again, not the same level of quarterback, but they're both quarterbacks. So what that means is quarterback equals a quarterback. Well, that quarterback is still a quarterback. So these two are identical to each other. So they go away, making these equal. So that's the transitive property. Let's practice it up here. It's just fancy substitution. I can interchange quarterbacks anytime in a game. Okay, that's all it is, substitution. So looking here, I see that C is equal to AB and C is equal to KB, which means I can get rid of C completely and make AB equal to KB. Now in this problem, I want to make sure that I'm solving for K. Well, all I'm going to do here is divide by B. Cancel, cancel, and I'm left with A, which is J. All right, let's try the next one. Number 6 is a great problem because it's a huge time waster. We've got a bunch of fractions. You can take forever typing these fractions into your calculator if you're wanting to, and typing math enter, but that is a huge waste of time. Notice how all of these fractions are being multiplied. That means that if I have a number on the top and a number on the bottom, since the fractions are being multiplied, I can cancel them. Now that doesn't work in addition. If I'm adding these, I can't do that. Only multiplication. So I notice that I have a 5 up top and a 5 on the bottom. Gone. 6 and 6, also gone. 7 and 7, also gone. Remember, this only works if you're doing multiplying fractions. Adding fractions and subtracting fractions, it does not work that way. So now I'm going to multiply. Top times top, so 3 times 4 is 12. Bottom times bottom, 8 times 9 is 72. Now, if you don't know off the top of your head that 12 goes into 72 6 times, then that is totally okay. Your calculator is a great tool to reduce fractions for you. So right here, I'm going to do 12 divided by 72, math enter, and it will automatically do it for me. So if you don't know that in your head, totally fine. It still works, so my answer is C. All right, number 7. What is the sum of the polynomials 4x squared y plus 2x squared y cubed and negative 2xy plus x squared y cubed? Now, sum is a math word we should know. It means plus. So I'm adding these polynomials. So I'm going to rewrite them. So 4x squared y plus 2x squared y cubed plus, and I have a negative 2xy plus x squared y cubed. I'm looking for like terms, so just like x's and y's, if I have more than one variable, to combine, the variables and exponents have to match. So right here I have 4x squared y. Everything else is x squared y cubed, xy, x squared y cubed. So there's nothing else with 4x squared y. So I cannot combine anything with 4x squared y. So this is where I'm going to work smarter, not harder. So I know that this has to be in my final answer. 4x squared y. So I find it here, and I find it here. And you know what? I don't find it anywhere else. Nowhere else do I see 4x squared y. So that means this is all gone. I've narrowed it down to a 50-50 chance just by knowing I can't combine that with anything. Remember, work smarter, not harder. The ACT does not care if you show every little bit of work, so work smarter. All right, then I have x squared and y cubed. So I have a positive 2x squared y cubed. I see over here that I have another positive x squared y cubed. And if there's no number in front of the x squared y cubed, I know by math terms the coefficient is 1. So now I'm just going to add 2x squared y cubed plus 1x squared y cubed is a total of 3x squared y cubed. So I need a 3x squared y cubed in my final answer. All right, well, 3x squared y cubed, I see it here. I don't see it here. So B is out, and A is your answer. So remember, work smarter. Okay, if you know the answer halfway through the problem, pick it. All right, number 8. Given that A equals B, which of the following reflects the multiplicative properties? So we talked about GEMA today. Multiplicative means multiply. So I'm starting with A equals B. I want to know which one shows me multiplying. Which one shows me multiplying? So I should know that when I write multiplying values, I can write the letters side by side, which is important. So looking at F, I see that C is being multiplied to B and to A. So it's F. Don't overcomplicate the properties. Okay, this is an exponent property. Right here I'm using addition. There's a plus sign. I'm looking for multiplicative, which just means multiply. How do I show multiplication? Well, I can multiply C to A and multiply C to B. So the answer is F. Number 9 is a great problem using the order of operations as well as combining like terms. So on 9, it's kind of looking complicated. One, because they leave the minus sign all the way up here. So what I'm going to do is come up here and write the rest of my problem. Here's the thing about the ACT. They're paid to make your life difficult. So of course they're going to put that over here because they want you to forget that it's subtracting. I don't want you to forget that it's subtracting. So rewrite it. Make your life easier. Put that information up where you can see it. Now let's combine those like terms. So I have a 4x squared and a 2x squared for a total of 6x squared. 6x squared. So 4x, 6x. Then I see this negative 3, and I need to distribute it. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21. Now, I have a negative in here, a negative distributing to everything. What that's going to do is it's going to change everything over here to a positive. So negative times negative is going to be positive 2x to the 4th. Negative times negative, positive 2x squared, a negative 3x, and a positive 5. Now we can start combining because we're adding. So I'm going to look for like terms. Usually when you are organizing polynomials, you write them, the highest power goes first. So I'm going to look here, I see a 2 to the, or x to the 4th, so a positive 2, x to the 4th. I'm going to work smarter, not harder, so 2x to the 4th has got to be first. Well, F, G, H, they're all out. The only one that has 2x to the 4th as first is J and K. So again, just by that little tidbit of knowledge, I know that I have a 50-50 chance of doing this right, which is a really good thing. The next highest power I see in my problem is a 2. So I have a 6x squared and a 2x squared. Well, 6x squared and 2x squared is 8x squared. 8x squared is located here, and it is not located here. So the answer is J. I didn't even have to finish this problem, and I'm already done. I did not have to combine the 21 with the 5, or the negative 3x and negative 3x. I don't care what those answers are. I found the right answer. I've combined my like terms. I'm done. Once you find the answer, you don't have to finish the problem. No one is going to look at this work and say, good job, you spent 40 extra seconds finishing the problem. No one cares, so just solve it. All right. Now, since we're at the point in our class where we haven't talked about simplifying radicals, I'm going to do this problem in my calculator because I don't want you to panic if you see a square root, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. All I'm going to do is type it in. So square root of 48. Make sure you arrow over, or if your calculator opens parentheses, make sure that you close the parentheses. So the square root of 48 minus the square root of 27. I get 1.73. It's important that you write notes to yourself because it's going to help you go back and practice. So I'm looking for an answer that gives me 1.73. Well, I definitely know off the top of my head that it's not A. It's definitely not 0. That's just a ridiculous answer choice, so I'm getting rid of that crap. Like, it is not true. Like, how can it be 0? They're just trying to waste your time. Now I'm just going to go through and square root all these. Okay, square root of 2. 1.4. Well, that's not 1.7. All right, I'll clear it so we can keep track. Square root of 3. 1.73. Well, that matches. Done. You don't have to do any more. I mean, if you really, really don't trust your calculator, you can see that these answer choices are not matching. So, oops, definitely not using that. So don't, oh my goodness. There we go. Don't waste your time. Like, look at all the time I wasted. I messed up typing it in my calculator. Once you find your answer with the square root and you know that it matches, that this is 1.73, just stop. You're done. Okay, number 11 is such a good problem. It's a good problem because it looks so intimidating. All you have to do is type this in your calculator. It is faster to type it than to just solve it out. I would recommend just typing it in. Now remember, the ACT can be done without a calculator. So all the problems can be solved without a calculator. Does that mean it's faster? No. So the way that you type these in, any kind of fraction at all, the numerator needs to go in its own set of parentheses and the denominator needs to go in its own set. However, now they've put a fraction inside of a fraction, which means now you must open, sorry, I hit that, you must open another set of parentheses around your individual fractions. So it's going to look like a total mess, but as long as you can utilize your calculator correctly, you're going to be fine. So the first parenthesis represents this blue. I'm opening up the numerator. The second parenthesis, I'm opening up my first fraction, so 3 divided by 4. I'm going to close it, minus, open my new set, 1 over 3. Now, I have completed typing in my numerator, so I'm going to close my fraction, or my, excuse me, parentheses. That parentheses tells me all this junk up here, that's my numerator, divided by all the junk on the bottom. So my first one is 3/4. Open a new parenthesis, get 3/4. Plus, open another set, 1/3. I want to close that parenthesis because my bottom is now done. I get this big decimal, math, enter, enter, 5 over 13, which is answer choice D. So you can spend time doing it by hand, but here's the thing. Use your calculator. Your calculator is a great tool. Your calculator will help you. You know what you're doing if you just type it in. So that's why we're practicing in class. All right, let's try number 12. Number 12 is a great problem because it's just basic substitution, but here's what makes it hard, okay? People still miss problems like that. 1, because they overthink it. 2, they forget about the negatives. So here is the biggest problem you're gonna run into. You're gonna say, oh, that x is already negative, so I'm just gonna accidentally sub in a 2. You might write it like this. Well, I don't want to actually write it in pen. I'll do it in pencil. How about that? Let me find a pencil. You might say, oh, that's negative. And I'm just going to replace it like this. That is wrong. We do not want to do that. That is bad. We want to pay attention to our negative signs. Those are important. So I'm going to erase this bad math and we're going to replace it with good math. This minus sign's got to come down. However, I'm also plugging in another negative. So negative, negative 2. Notice how I opened a new set of parentheses. I've got to close that set of parentheses. I can't leave them just gaping open. All right, to continue, I'm going to put minus, parenthesis, negative. I'm going to open them again, negative 2, close, close. Now, you could write it this way, depending on your comfort level and your understanding of what is happening mathematically. These are the same thing. So basically what's happening is these double negatives are going to become positive. Now the reason you can do that is because they're both inside parentheses when they're being raised to an exponent. As long as they're together in the parentheses, that's possible. So this now will just simplify to 2 squared minus 2. So 2 squared is 4, 4 minus 2 is 2, for an answer of D. All right, 13, what is the value of the square root of x plus negative x squared when x is negative 1? Again, perfect example of confusion. They put a negative in here. They're going to bank on the fact that you forget to put another negative. So I know that it's going to be the square root of negative 1 plus negative negative 1 squared. Now, you cannot cancel the squared and square root because all of this stuff in here is not being raised to the 2. If it was, then you could, but you can't just cancel this with that. It doesn't have a squared here. So what you have to do is do it the long way. So I got the square root of negative 1 plus, well, negative negative 1 is just 1 squared. So the square root of negative 1 plus 1, because 1 squared is 1, becomes the square root of 0, which is 0. Okay, just taking time to do little steps, showing the negatives, making sure you're paying attention to the negatives. The ACT loves to have you plug in negative numbers because they really hope that you're going to forget to put the negative sign. Okay, this one's a quadratic formula problem. Love the quadratic formula. It's provided right here. You don't even have to sing that song, x equals negative b, you know, that song. You don't have to sing it. It's right here. Just plug it in. So I have x equals negative, my b value is 4, plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is also 2. Oh, I just realized that I opened up a set of parentheses. Let me get my white out real quick. It's getting a little ahead of myself. So 2, open, 2, close. There we go. This pen does not write well on whiteout. 2 times 2. Okay. At this point, you might go, oh, I'll just type all that junk into my calculator. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. No, do not do that, okay? I know that we love our calculator and we're really tempted to just type all of that junk in there. Do not do that. What you want to do is keep this outside stuff. So negative 4 plus or minus the square root. If you really must touch your calculator, I only want you to type in what's underneath the square root because then you can see your answer choices easier. Because see how these answers have square root of 2 in them? If you type the square root in your calculator and you just type all of this in your calculator, it's going to change it to a decimal. And you don't want it to change it to a decimal. So only do the first part, like the first piece underneath. So right here, I've got 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times 2. Now, if you want to feel more comfortable, you can totally do this. 4 squared minus 4 parentheses, or like you can group it all together. Like, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like this. If you feel more comfortable, it's going to give you the same answer. It's okay. You don't have to worry. Okay, you can type it with or without. So this is 0 over 4 because 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. Well, now I'm just going to look here and say, okay, well, I can't plus or minus 0. Like, that's not a thing. I'm not going to plus or minus 0. So I'm left with negative 4 over 4, which is negative 1. Option G. What that means is the x-intercept, it just touches the x-axis at negative 1. All right. 15, another great substitution problem and another great example about how the ACT wants you to miss super easy questions. They give you negative numbers to make it harder on you. The problem itself is not difficult, but the negative will make it hard. All right, so I am going to substitute. X is negative 3. Negative 3 squared minus 6 times negative 3 minus 18. Now, I have made a critical error, okay? I did it on purpose. Whenever you are squaring negative numbers, it is out of habit that we just write them down, okay? It's out of habit. The ACT banks on the fact that you will do that, first off, and that you will type in your calculator this. Negative 3 squared minus 6 times negative 3 minus 18. Okay? My calculator groups it. Okay, my calculator groups it. Some of the other calculators don't. Now look at what, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. It did not group it. I didn't see the negative sign. Again, the ACT and the negatives, they love it. Okay, I typed it in and I got negative 9. And I get excited because I look at the answer choices and I see negative 9 right here and I'm like, heck yeah, negative 9, I know my answer is H. But I made a crucial mistake. And this is why the ACT gives you negative numbers, because they want to just ruin your future, okay? The critical mistake here is whenever you are raising a negative number to any kind of exponent, I don't care, even or odd exponent, you really, really, really need to put the parentheses right here. What that's going to do, it might seem like that is the most minor thing in the world, okay? That it's not going to change my answer that much. It does. The right answer is F. Now, the ACT is banking on the fact that you don't put parentheses. Now, the reason you want to put parentheses is because you're doing negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. Your calculator is doing negative 9. Because if you don't put the parentheses, so I'm just going to do a side note. If I have negative 2 squared, your calculator only does what is closest to the exponent. It thinks you want it to do negative 1 times 2 squared. So negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And that's if you do it like this, if you don't put parentheses. But in your mind, you know that you want to do negative 2 squared. What your calculator now sees is, oh, you don't want me to multiply by negative 1? You want me to do negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4? Oh, why didn't you just tell me? So here's the thing. Your calculator is super intelligent, but it's only as intelligent as you are. Like, you have to tell it what you want, okay? If you don't tell it that you want it to be parenthesis negative 2 squared, your calculator only follows the orders of operation. You have to tell it what to do. It can't read your mind. In my mind, yeah, I wanted it to do negative 2 squared, but according to the order of operations, your calculator doesn't do that. It doesn't know that you want negative 2 squared. It thinks you want negative 1 times 2 squared, which you don't want. You don't want this, okay? The parentheses matter, okay? They matter. So if I was going to continue this by hand, I would get positive 18 minus 18, where these would cancel and my answer is 9. Okay, this is the trickiest part. They bank on the fact that you use your calculator a lot and that you rely heavily on it. Totally fine. You're allowed to use your calculator, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. So they're doing it on purpose to trick you. Anytime you are raising any kind of negative number to an exponent, put it in parentheses. All right, let's try number 16. Almost done with this worksheet. Again, another great example of how the ACT is trying to get you. They're trying to make you plug in that negative number. So let's simplify. We've got 2x, so 2 times negative 6 times negative 6 minus 3 times y, which is 3, plus 2 times 3 squared. Okay, notice how I put the 3 in parentheses. Anytime you're raising anything to a power and you're substituting, put it in parentheses. All right, let's continue. So I'm going to go ahead and group these together. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. I'm going to bring down that negative 6, and then I have negative 3 times negative 3, which is negative 9, plus, bring down that 2 times 3 squared is 9. All right, let's continue. Simplify in parentheses, so negative 12. Negative 6 minus 9 is negative 15, plus 2 times 9 is 18. And then when I continue to multiply negative 12 times 15, I get 180, plus 18 is 198, which is E. So again, not a difficult problem. Looks scary because there's X and Y, but it's no harder than what you can do. You can do all of these problems. It just takes a second. All right, last one, number 17. What is the value of 1/3 to the X minus 1/2 to the Y? Here's a good thing. It's giving you the values. It's not abstract, it's substitution. It's a basic substitution problem. So parenthesis, 1/3, the X value is 2, minus 1/2, exponent of Y is negative 1. Again, you can do all of this without a calculator. Does that mean you want to? No. So let's just type it in. I will show you how to do it by hand. It's not hard. But I think, honestly, the best shortcut is just knowing when to use your shortcuts, okay? Yeah, I could definitely do this by hand. That doesn't mean I want to, okay? You have done your time in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, showing all your work. Work smarter, not harder. I know that you can do that, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. Now, if you are a whiz at fractions and negative exponents and you totally want to do this by hand, as long as you can do it faster by hand versus typing it on the calculator, you need to keep that in mind because the ACT is a time game. You want to beat it. So if it's faster for you to type that in, do it. It's not a big deal. No one's like embarrassed. You don't need to be embarrassed that you're using a calculator. I'm encouraging it. I hope that this worksheet video helped you understand how to use GEMA with the orders of operation a little bit better. If you guys need any more help on the orders of operation and the ACT, feel free to email me. Have a great day, guys.